Hey guys, live streaming it today. Pretty exciting stuff, I think. At least it is for me. It's been a long time since we've done a live stream. And so let me know in the chat where you are watching from. I know you guys are like all over the world. It is a weekday and it's like 10 o'clock in the morning here on Pacific time. So I'm not expecting a whole lot of folks because I know you guys are busy and you have to work. But nonetheless, let me know in the chat where you are. Let's see, where you're watching from. Let's see, live chats. It should be there. All right, well, let me know and we'll see. But I wanted to talk today about this problem, right, with off-grid permits. We'll kind of start off with that topic because I remember, man, when we were thinking about moving off-grid, right? I mean, we've been here for 6 years now. And we've learned a lot along the process, right? I mean, we were like green as green can be. We were green coming out here. And if you watched this from the beginning, right? I mean, you watched this like set up our tents and we were like fogging for mosquitoes and trying to protect everything from rain. And we had like, those like tents, like the easy ups and like a wedding kind of tents, those cheap ones that you can get on Amazon. We had that set up at first. We were like in camping tents. Oh, starting to clear the land, chainsaws, dragging trees, and all that kind of stuff in the beginning. But we learned a lot through that process and building our house up to what you see here now, right? South Florida, van life. 561, nice to see you here. And hello from South Africa. Man, I really want to visit South Africa. But anyway, nonetheless, and Ireland, man, I want to visit everywhere. So if I don't mention your country, I apologize, but I definitely want to visit there because I want to go everywhere. But nonetheless, right, so we learned a lot during that process. And we were talking about permits, right? So before we moved here, probably like a lot of you, we were watching YouTubers who were, steps ahead of us. And we were specifically watching YouTubers from North Idaho. And I know like we're kind of like the second, maybe, bigger channel up in North Idaho. And there's a bunch that have come along since then. But there was one channel specifically that we were watching that was big. And they said, there's no building permits in North Idaho. Technically, that's true, but in reality, it's not so true, right? And so because normally when people think of building permits, they think of all the building permits, right? And it's true, there's no building permits. There's a location permit, meaning that they want to know on your property what the footprint of your home is going to be, or whatever building you're building. If it's over, I forget how many square feet, but like a garden shed doesn't count, right? Chicken coop doesn't count, but anything bigger than that, and it's on their website. But you need to get a location permit for, and that is the footprint of the building. They don't come out and they don't inspect the foundation. They don't inspect the walls, the windows, the studs, the sheetrock. Anything that has to do with the building itself, they don't inspect. There's no permit for that, just the location permit. But that's the county, right? That's the county. Now, there's the state that you got to deal with also, and the state applies to every county. And so when they say that there's no building permits in North Idaho, meaning Bonner County and Boundary County, that's true, but the state has electrical permits, plumbing permits, HVAC permits, and probably, septic and sewer permits, which you do have to get, or at least you're supposed to get. And so those permits do apply. And another thing that was surprising, and I know was a shock to a lot of our viewers, was that you need to have permits if you live off grid. Now, it's always going to depend on where you live or where you're looking to live or where you're looking to, buy property and build off grid and have this type of lifestyle. And so you always need to check the local regulations for that. I lost my coffee. don't know where it went. I lost it, man. Anyway, so you got to check, right, for those kinds of things. And so here where we are, yes, even if you're off grid, you need to have a location permit. You need to have electrical permits if you have electricity, right? If you don't have electricity, well, then you don't need an electrical permit. If you build a dry cabin, meaning you have no running water, no sewer, right? Nothing like that. If it's just a dry cabin, well, of course, you don't need a plumbing permit because you have no plumbing, right? And so that type of stuff. Anyway, but I would say that it's my experience in North Idaho has been excellent with every inspector and with every person that we've dealt with in any office, right? It has been excellent. They have been so helpful. And you know, when we talk to them and they come out to our place, right? Like we've done our drain plumbing. We did the rough in on the drain plumbing. And so we call them to come out and do the inspection. Super friendly, super helpful. And they will explain basically that their job is to help us do a good job, right? Their job isn't to nitpick. Their job isn't to try to find violations. Their job is to try to help us have sewer that flows downhill consistently, right? I mean, they want us to be successful with whatever we're doing. And so that's really cool. It's just a totally different mindset than you hear about from inspectors in other states, say like California or Washington or Oregon or maybe some other places as well, but where it's more of like an adversarial relationship between the homeowner and the inspector, right? And they're like, right? But that's not our experience here. They've been super helpful. And another thing that's really cool is you can call them. And if you have a question, call them. Call the inspector, the one that's over your area, and ask him a question. Hey, I want to use this type of tea in this location. Can I do that? And he'll tell you, right? Like I remember, because I didn't know anything really, right? I went to the Home Depot website and I took pictures from the website of every plumbing fitting for the drain, right? Every plumbing fitting that I was going to use in our house. And I put it in like PowerPoint, and I put all of those fittings and I rotated them all the right directions and labeled them all. And then I put black lines, right? Like 3-inch or 2-inch or 1.5-inch ABS, because here we use ABS for drains. But anyway, I put all of that together in a spreadsheet and connected it all together. And then I saved it as a PDF and I emailed it to the inspector and asked him to look at this. This is my plan that I'm gonna do. And he made some corrections on it for me because I had chosen some wrong tees. And I think I might have had like a vent tee upside down. Anyway, right, you gotta have it go in different directions for the drain and the vent. So anyway, I mean, he totally helped me out, which was awesome. And so it's just been a really good experience. But those are some of the questions, right, that we had when we were thinking about moving here, about these permits and all that kinds of stuff, right? Other questions that we had, and we were watching other YouTubers to try to find out, was like, how do I generate power? What's the best way to generate power in that location? You got solar, you got like gas generators, you got hydro, or you got wind, and some of those things work better in different locations, but I wasn't sure about up here. So that made it, a little bit hesitant, although we're kind of risk takers, I guess, and we just kind of go for it and learn along the way. But it was still one of those kind of nagging questions in the back of my mind. And it might be one of those nagging questions that's in the back of your mind. Water as well, like, how do you get water? How much does it rain there? How big does your roof have to be if you want to do rainwater collection? And how much water can you get? How much does it cost to drill a well there? Can you drill a well by hand? Can you do all of this stuff yourself? Or do you have to have licensed contractors do it all? There's tons of questions that we had as we were going into this that a lot of people also have. Right? Like, what kind of home can I build? Can I build anything that I want? Or does it have to be like a certain style or type of home or a certain type of construction? And so I know, man, there's so much that goes into this, especially if you're green, like we were green. So many questions in our minds as we're thinking about these things. Something else that I think that we were, kind of thinking about is the budget, right? Like how do you figure out how much it's going to cost to build a home yourself, right? I mean, there's some kind of general calculators out there, so much per square foot. That's usually for a contractor to do it. But how do you figure that out yourself, man? What books, right? How do you learn to build something? How do you frame a wall and all this kind of stuff, right? There's books out there to help you do all that kind of stuff, and other YouTubers that you can watch. But those are questions, right, that we have when we're trying to start doing something like this. Land, man, right? So like when we first started looking for our land, like what type of land should you be looking for? What are some of the characteristics of the land that you want to avoid? What are some characteristics of the land that you want to go towards? Or what are some signs that there may be water on the land, right? As in not like surface water, obviously, if there's a creek running through it, there's water. But what are are there trees? Is there some way that you can tell? I mean, you get out there with your like little, sticks and go around and look for water, or what do you do? Septic and sewer, right? Like, how do you deal with that? Can you have an outhouse? Do you have to have like a registered or certified, inspected septic system, or can you just dig a hole and run a pipe into it, right? I mean, so many different questions. Oh boy, man. And then let's see what else. Oh, another one that we've been asked a lot. We didn't really consider this too much. I don't know why. Maybe because we're not, I don't know, but we didn't really think about it too much. And that is, what about emergency services, right? How can you get emergency services to your property if you're thinking about moving someplace that's pretty far out, especially in the winter time, right? Is there any solutions to that? And what if you have a heart attack out there, or what if your spouse falls down and breaks their leg? What do you do about that, right? And so those are some questions that people have as well. Just what skills should we have, and all of that type of stuff, right? That questions that we have. And so, like I said, we've been doing this for, I don't know, man, six plus years, a little bit over 6 years, like 6 years and 2 weeks. What's the date today? We've been doing this now for 6 years and 16 days. Yep, exactly, 6 years and 16 days. And so we thought, man, you know what? Let's share some of this with people, and in a more interactive, real way, right? I mean, we can make videos and we can give you tips on videos and all that kind of stuff, right? And but I've freed up some hours this week in my schedule for you, and there is a link down in the description below, right? You can click on that link and you can book an hour just to talk with me. It'll be a Google Meet. We'll like live, me and you will just be talking here, and you can ask whatever you want to ask, and we can talk about property. We could talk about growing a YouTube channel, right? We can talk about monetizing a YouTube channel. That's another question I forgot. Totally just blew my mind. Not blew it, left my mind. I don't know. I forgot all about it. But right, one thing that people want to know about is, right, how did you do this debt free? Like, you must have been rich when you started. We weren't rich when we started, man. We were just scraping by. But through the process and through learning over the last 6 years, right, we've been able to build a whole debt-free house through our YouTube channel, right? How do you do that, right? How do you monetize a YouTube channel? How do you do it well? How do you grow a YouTube channel? That type of stuff, right? Those are a lot of questions that we had and a lot of things that we had to learn the hard way as we were learning to do this stuff. And so we want to share that information with you too, if that's something that you want to know, right? And so, did I already say there's a link down in the description below? Well, there is. And you click that, you can book an hour with me one of the evenings this week, right? So I freed up some hours to be able to talk with you guys. And those are some of the things, man, that I know we thought about and wondered about and tried to find information on. But, you know, it doesn't have to be specifically North Idaho, right? A lot of the things that we have learned being in North Idaho apply everywhere, right? You want to get property in Missouri, the same principles apply, right? To purchasing off-grid property wherever you are. Some things might just be more important in one area than another area, but the principles are all the same, right? The principles of all the stuff we talked about are pretty much going to be the same no matter where you go. Laws are going to be different, of course, and rules are going to be different and all of that, but the principles will be the same. All right, so let's open it up to some questions. If you got some questions right now, I would love to try to answer some of those questions. And we'll go ahead and jump in here. Let's see. Nope, close that. See if there's, here we go. See what we got already that came in. And then while I'm looking at these, you guys go ahead and put in whatever questions you want. How are y'all, Martin? Hey, we're doing good. Thank you very much. That's Tariq. Maybe Tariq. Anyway, I don't know where you're from, Tariq, but we're doing good. And we've got somebody from Virginia. We've got Washington State here. We've got good morning for everybody from oh boy, I don't even know how you say that, in Alaska. Well, good morning. Last summer, Seth and I went up to Alaska. We rode our motorcycles up there, and it was a fun trip. All right, so somebody else says good morning from Aaron, and we've got somebody watching from Lebanon, South Florida, South Africa, Ireland, California, Holland, Sweden, Colorado, Lebanon again, Australia, Alaska. Thankfully, we do not need building permits here in Alaska. All right, that is a great comment, right? And so that's a great thing to say. And I think one thing that we might want to clarify with that, and I'm not trying to contradict you at all, but when we say, like, we don't have building permits in Bonner County, right? Like I said, right? Just the location permit for the actual house. I didn't clarify that, which I should have. That is in the county, not in the city, right? So if you're in Sandpoint, or you're in Athol, or you're in Ponderay, or Kootenai, or Dover, or Priest River, and you're within the city limits, then that's going to be a different story, right? Because now you're under a different jurisdiction. And so Alaska, well, that's a very broad jurisdiction. And I would guess, although I could be totally wrong, that Anchorage, within the city limits of Anchorage, you need building permits, right? Probably in Fairbanks, you're going to need building permits, or I forget some of the other cities up there. I'm sorry, man. But anyway, right? So it's going to depend on the jurisdiction, and even maybe in the whole state. You don't need a building permit for anything in the whole state of Alaska. I kind of doubt it, but maybe that's the case. So anyway, I should have clarified that earlier when I said North Idaho, you don't need a building permit for the actual structure, right? I should have clarified that was out in the county, not the city limits. Okay. So let's continue on here. But let's see if I can find where we left off here. Watching from Wyoming. Oh, okay. Hey, I found it. There we go. Good morning from North Idaho. Hey, good morning. Let's see. Wyoming permits. Let's see. Teller County. Everything was permit and inspected. Watching from Wyoming. When in Colorado, Teller County, everything had a permit and inspected. Okay, see, so just depends on where you live, right? Let's see, North Carolina, Jules says hi all. Hi, Jules. Let's see, good day, Martin. Hope you're doing well. We're doing well, Ben, thank you. Let's see, Living the Dream Homestead. Hey guys, hello there, Jeremy and Angela. Let's see. Good afternoon from North Carolina. Anybody else on here? Any questions coming in? Yeah, I was originally from Idaho. Germany, Austria. Let's see. Building a house is much different. We build with stone. Yeah, right? And so all around the world, right, people build houses differently. And so, right, that's another thing to consider is what type of building materials are available in the area in which you want to build. Of course, if you're in the United States, pretty much any building material is available, right? You just have to order it if you want it. But in some places, maybe certain building materials aren't available. Let's see, how did you find your property? Did you buy it on an owner contract or pay outright? That's a good question. We found our property. We got a realtor. Well, first of all, we started looking online, right? Like Zillow and realtor.com and different websites like that, right? So we started looking online. Of course, there was a whole process that we narrowed it down to the Sandpoint area, but we won't get into that whole process. And there was a whole bunch of steps that we went through to decide on this particular area. A whole lot of things had to be checked off of the list, right? To be able to say, that's the area we want to build. And so if you want to know about that, just book a call down below and we can go into more details about that. But, so we started looking online and we started looking at different properties there. And then after that, what did we do? Oh, we got a realtor. We came here, right? We got in the car and drove up here and found some campgrounds and we camped out and we got a realtor and he gave us the lists of property and we went out and we looked at the property. And then we took 2 weeks to find this property and we bought it. Like we said, that's the one we want. And we just paid cash for it. Back then, when we were looking at property up here, property was still fairly inexpensive. Now, if you grew up here, then at that time, you would probably say that property was expensive, right? Because it had started to go up a little bit, but it was still within reach of the average person. And so that's a big difference to now, right? After COVID, man, property prices just, everybody wanting to flee the city, and get out of the left coast, came over here and really bolster the conservative population here with refugees from other places. But that caused the house prices to go up, property prices to go up. And so that's how we did it. We got a realtor, went around, walked the property, looked at the property, dug some holes on some property, and tried to make a wise decision from that. So, yeah, that's how we did it. In brief, right? In brief. Let's see. How are your children? Man, our children are doing great. Sarah's married. She's going to have a baby here coming up soon. Seth is in college. He's home for the summer right now. He's working a job. He's working 50, 60 hours a week doing landscaping, and is also preaching every Sunday over in Spokane. And yeah, so he's here for the summer. Then he's going back to school in the fall. Let's see. Good day from South Africa. We already saw that. Let's see. Any questions? Do you have to pay a lot on a mortgage? No, we're debt-free, right? And so debt-free means you don't have a mortgage. So no, we don't pay anything on a mortgage. Let's see. How did you find your property? Oh, we already talked about that one. We choose Central Maine. That's cool. Man, I'd love to visit Maine too. So how do you keep motivation going to complete projects when on a budget? Yes, example, like you run low on funds and can't complete a certain project. That's a good question, Jeremy. Man, if you can't complete it, right, you can't complete it. So that's just the nature of the beast. But to avoid that problem, maybe, what could we do to avoid that problem? Or to at least lessen the likelihood that we would run into that problem? That would be called, I think planning ahead, right? Jesus told the parable of the man who was going to build a tower, right? And he started building the tower, but he didn't have enough money to finish building the tower. That's kind of a foolish thing to do, right? And so I know we all make those types of mistakes. We jump into something not expecting it to be, or there's unforeseen expenses, tools break, cars break down. I mean, there's always something that comes up. But if we can minimize that by planning ahead, then I think we're going to be a lot better off, right? And so like when we decided the house that we have right now, what you see behind me is not what we planned originally. What we wanted, or what we had planned, was a 24 by 40 box, basically. And we only had enough money. Like, we already knew coming into this process, when we moved onto the property, we knew we did not have enough money to finish it. We had enough money to get it dried in and livable. And that doesn't mean electrical or plumbing. Really, I mean, like, yeah, the basics on the plumbing. There was no sheetrock. That was no flooring. All it was the shell, the windows, and insulation, and a roof. Doors, obviously. We need doors. So anyway, that was it. That's all we had money for. But we knew that when we were going into it. And so we budgeted. We priced everything out. We had a whole spreadsheet of everything that we thought we were going to need to accomplish this project. And then, right, we lived in tents because we didn't want to spend the money on an RV. Two reasons why. One, we wanted that money, right? You're going to spend like $5,000 on a used RV to live in while you're building. Well, that's $5,000 that is tied up in an RV that you can't put into the house until you sell the RV. So we needed that money, right? So we lived in tents. And number two was, if we had an RV, we would all be in one little tiny RV together. And that would be a little rough, I think, anyway, for our family, right? We kind of wanted our space. And so Sarah had her own tent. Seth had his own tent. Jules and I had our own tent. We had a separate kitchen tent. And so everybody could like kind of spread out at night, and you could have a little bit of peace and quiet, and it was calm, right? So that was another reason. So I guess there's three reasons, really. The third reason was that an RV might have been too comfortable, meaning that we might have worked slower than we felt like we were going to need to work, because we moved to our property on May 31st, 6 years ago, and we needed to have something livable before fall, really, like before winter, right? Late fall, mid-fall. And that year it started snowing in September, and October it was frozen. The ground was frozen already. It was a cold fall, but we got into our home sometime in October, and like our bathroom was outside still, and it was totally frozen. It was rough, but it was motivating. We did not want to be in those tents all winter. So anyway, that kind of helped motivate us to get that project done, because we had put ourselves in a situation where it really had to happen. And so I guess that's one kind of thing that I've noticed with some people who are building off grid, right? Or building on grid, but doing kind of the same thing, but they have grid power. When they have another income source, right, like a retirement or a pension or a regular job out in society, they tend to build slower. They tend to go at a slower pace. At least that's what I've observed. Of course, that's not what everybody does. But they go at a slower pace because, in my opinion, there's a lack of motivation. And not in a bad way. I don't mean that in a negative way at all. They've got a comfortable life. They've got, a comfortable situation. They don't have to get it done this year. They can wait till next year because they have a house someplace else, right? And that's great for them. We were not in that situation. And so we were forced to work fast. And from sun up to sundown, right? Every day except for Sunday, go to church, and Wednesday evening to go to Bible class. But every other day, sun up to sundown, man. we were working that first summer to try to get it done. So that's one way that we were motivated to work hard, work fast, get it done, stay within budget, because if we blew our budget early and we weren't able to put windows in, that'd have been one cold winter, no doubt. So anyway, maybe that's helpful, maybe not, I don't know, but tell me what you think. Think that's helpful or not? And then the other thing too, right? If it's not a critical project, right? Like fencing the garden, it's not really critical. I mean, it would be ideal if we had that thing fenced. We had it fenced before, but we tore it down because it was falling apart. We didn't do a good job on it. And so we need to fence it again, but it's not critical, right? And so it can wait. It can wait. I just got to be calm, be patient, right? Be like, there's other things that are more important right now. And so prioritize things and focus on what's truly a priority. And some of the other things can wait, right? As an example, right? I knew some folks, good folks, but their priorities were different than our priorities. Nothing wrong with that. We just had different priorities. And they got animals right away. Like they were taking care of goats and chickens and stuff right away, like right off of the bat. Before they even had their home built or anything, they had animals. And so, but that's a different priority. And that's what was important to them, and that's what they did. And so, which is perfectly fine, right? So you kind of need to think about what your priorities are. And so if your priorities are that, then do that first. But just realize that that's going to take a lot of time and possibly money to manage animals when you don't even have a house for yourself to live in yet, right? So it's just priorities, man. There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat, and there's consequences, either good or bad consequences to all of those decisions, right? So for us, the consequence was we didn't have animals right away, and we still only have chickens. So that was a consequence to our decision, right? We're not as self-sufficient in the food area as somebody else. Somebody who starts with animals and they get all that squared away, and then they're much more self-sufficient in the food area than we are, but they don't have their house finished yet, maybe, right? And so that kind of thing, right? There's always trade-offs. Maybe trade-offs is a better word than consequences, because that sounds kind of negative. Let's see some other questions here. That was that one from Portland, Oregon here. Hey, nice to see some left coasters here. How do you guys ever have problems heating your home? That's a good question, man. Like, heating is definitely important, right? When you live up in the northern states. And so for us, heating is a big priority. We don't have a problem heating our home unless we're not home. If we're not home, we got a big problem heating our home. And so that's one of the major concerns, I think, with building off-grid. One of the biggest things to think about and plan for is if you plan to leave your property for any amount of time, I don't mean like a day, but like you're gonna leave it for 2 or 3 days in the middle of winter, and all as you have is wood heat, you're gonna have to do something about your water, right? Drain the water lines, put antifreeze, the good stuff, not like the stuff you put in your car, but the RV kind of antifreeze, put that in all of your traps, put it in your toilet tank, and basically winterize your house like you would winterize an RV, so you can leave it for a weekend in the middle of winter. So that's definitely a concern. We're working on some solutions for that, but it's difficult. I mean, we got the where is that thing? The Mr. Cool up there now. I think you can see that. That helps. The problem is the power that it uses, right? Because you think about it, in the winter, is when we need to use that the most if we're not going to be home. So you can set it and it just kind of keeps the house at, from freezing. But the winter time is also when you make the least amount of power when you're on solar. So what do you do about that, right? Anyway, those are important questions. That's a great question and something that we really ought to think about when we're thinking about, building off grid and living off grid. How do we heat that? I'd love to just go into that deeper with you if you want. We can remember there's you can book a call down below if you want. But anyway, we could go into that in deeper and kind of try to customize some ideas and bounce things back and forth that might be a solution. How did you find your partner? Oh, we already saw that one. How do you keep motivated? We already talked about that. When is a house finished? Isn't it an endless project? Well, that's a good question. Tobias. When is a house finished? Well, in Bonner County, Idaho, it's finished when it's being used for its intended purpose. That's when they consider it finished. And so you have your location permit, right? And you stake out your corners. And the guy comes out from the county and he looks at the corners and like you told them you were going to build a 1,000 square foot building and it's going to be, right, 500 feet from this property line and 1,000 feet from that property line and 75 feet from that property line and 7,000 feet from that property line, something like that, right? So they come out, they look at it like, yep, now it looks like it's about right. Maybe they measure it if it's close, right? Like the rule here is you have to be 25 feet away from your property line, at least for our specific zoning, right? You got to be 25 feet away. And so if it's looking close, he'll probably measure it, but otherwise he might not even measure. He'll just be like, where's your property line at? Over there? Okay, you're good. And so then when you're done, when it's being used for its intended purpose, they'll come out and they'll make sure that you built it where you said you were going to build it. And that's it. It's done. Right? So it just depends on how you define done. Right? Some people would say a house is never done because there's always maintenance to do on it. It could be. It just depends on how you define it. All right. Let's see. Any other questions here? Let's see. As a YouTuber, have you ever faced problems with certain people like you? No. Let's see. We have seen well-known YouTubers in the past complain about individuals who invade their property and posting their personal info, such as their location on Google Maps, etc. All right. If you were going to put yourself out there in the public eye, such as on YouTube, you need to expect that you are going to lose some of your privacy, right? That's just the way it is. And that's something that is just a reality. Do not expect to be anonymous. Somebody will find you. Somebody will talk about you. Somebody will post about you. And that's the way it's going to be, right? So that's just something that we have to plan for and be ready for. And there are some things that we can do to kind of mitigate that, right? You can buy your property in the name of a trust, right? Or have a trust set up that's not your name. It's a trust, like a family trust or whatever. It's like, the Carpetbaggers Trust. I don't know. I just saw the carpet down there and said that. Whatever it is, right? Green Tree Family Trust. And you buy your property in that, and that's going to make it harder for people to find you. There's a bunch of different things that you might be able to do to mitigate that some, but people are going to see you in town, right? Like you're going to go to Home Depot or Lowe's or the hardware store, and somebody's going to recognize you from your YouTube channel. They're going to come up to you and they're going to say hi. We love that. Right? Like that is part of the reason we do our YouTube channel. We want to meet people in person and visit with them and invite them to come to church, right? And so we love that. Some people don't. My recommendation is not to have a YouTube channel if you don't want people to recognize you in public and start a conversation with you. But the point of that I was saying was somebody's going to see you in town. They're going to see what car you drive. They may even follow you home, right? Or at least to your street, and like you pull in and they just keep going. They're like, they live right down there. And then later on they come back, right? And they drive down your road and they're looking for your vehicle parked out there somewhere, right? And they find it. They see your vehicle parked. They just drive on by like, you know, like they're just somebody out looking at property or something. But now they know where you live. They can post that on Facebook, on YouTube, anywhere they can post it, right? That is public information. So that's just how it happens, man, right? All of your building permits, your well permits, your septic permit, all of those permits are public record. That's the way it is, man. You just got to be, you just got to be ready to deal with it. Have good homeowners insurance. Have some friends, you know, some tools maybe that that you keep handy. Some handy tools that you keep handy to protect yourself and your family. Security cameras around your property, signs that say you have security cameras. And then if you're on YouTube, you share pictures from your security cameras occasionally, like the bears walking through the yard or the moose or something that lets your audience know that you have security at your home. Therefore, don't come by uninvited, right? So there's some things we can do, but that's just the way it is, my friend. See, do you geothermal? Do you have or have you considered geothermal heating and cooling? I do not have it, and I have not really considered it beyond like just abstractly. That's pretty neat. Oh, let's see. Yeah, that's great, man. Bluegrass Acres, right? They're telling their story about losing their home in 2021 and deciding to move back home to their hometown and building that. That's great, man. That's an awesome story. Texas, Post Falls. Let's see. Suggest if you have to leave for a weekend in the winter, you could turn the water off at the main source, then just leave the faucets open to drain the lines. Then after you return home, something. Yeah, you could do that probably. You just want to make sure that your lines are actually going to drain, right? Because like as an example, right? The water comes in low, and then it goes up to your faucets, right? And it's only going to drain as far as the lowest faucet. So if you don't have a faucet that comes off of the bottom somewhere down really low, then all that's not going to drain out. It's going to drain out at the lowest opening. And so if your lowest opening, say, is probably like in a regular house, the toilet, I would guess, would be the lowest. It's lower than the vanity sink. Maybe the shower, maybe the tub is the lowest spot. Well, you're still going to have all of that water down below. Now, it may not burst the pipe because you have it open and it has room to expand, but it's all going to be frozen. And so you might run into difficulty with that. Probably better to blow out the lines if you can, to put in, I don't know, man. This is just my thinking here, right? And what we've done. We've drained the water out of all of the lines because we have a very low spot. Our well tank is the lowest spot. And so you open the valve on that, and then all of the water can drain out of the entire system, except for that main line that comes into the well tank, but that doesn't freeze, so it's not a problem. Anyway, yeah, so you just gotta think about it and find out like what's gonna work best in your situation. Because frozen pipes are no fun. How's Seth doing? He's doing good, right? He's working, he's getting a lot of overtime in every week. He's working for a landscape company here. And also he is preaching every Sunday over in Spokane. It's like 90 miles one way to for him to go over there and preach. They needed a preacher, and so he's filling in for the summer. Let's see. Been loving your content for years. Thank you so much. How often do you use your power generator during the summer and winter? I'm guessing, Standby News, that you mean our like gas powered generator. Our gas powered generator we don't really use in the summertime. We have more than enough power during the summer, right? It's not cloudy here very often. It typically gets really dry in the summertime, and so there's plenty of sunshine in the summertime. We can run air conditioners all day if we want to, if it's hot enough. I mean, like right now, it's not hot at all. Jules probably has a sweater on because let's see, it's 64 degrees in the house right now. Yeah. And it's only 73 degrees outside. So we don't need air conditioners all the time. There's some weeks, in the summertime when you occasionally get a hot spell, but it's not a big deal. So anyway, we have plenty of power in the summertime. We can run sprinklers, right? Run the well 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just leave sprinklers running everywhere if we want to. But in the wintertime, that's a different story, man. We don't make enough power in the wintertime. We've got to run the generator probably every 2 to 3 days. If we're conservative with our power, every 2 to 3 days, we run that generator for a few hours to charge the batteries back up. So anyway, that's that. Let's see, any other questions? I've been loving your, let's see. Just started watching, huh? So this is Diana Moses. Well, thank you so much, Diana. I'm glad you're here. You can go back like 6 years and like follow along from the beginning if you want. But fun stuff here, man. See the kids growing up, right? I mean, we moved out here. They were still small 6 years ago, and still small. I mean, they were teenagers and just almost a teenager. But tools, handy, laugh out loud, best advice. Haha. Yeah, you got to have some handy tools, man. Let's see. Why use 12-volt batteries for living off grid when 48 seems to be much easier and cheaper at this point? It would just depend on what you want to do, right? I mean, like, I wouldn't run a 12-volt system. We don't run a 12-volt system. We run a 48-volt system. But we do use 12-volt batteries to run the 48-volt system. So we have 4 batteries run in series, which makes 48 volts. And, we're talking about one of the things that we could talk about if you want to book a call with me is monetizing a YouTube channel and being able to build an off-grid homestead debt-free and have a business that you wrap around that, right? To be able to accomplish that. And so our solar system is part of that business, right? And so we use top-line batteries, and they've been great. Like, we have had no problems, 0 issues with our batteries, with our whole solar system. And we've upgraded over time because we didn't know what we were doing. And we started off with a 24-volt system. But I didn't know that 48 volts would be really all that better. I didn't know that kind of stuff yet. And so we ended up upgrading, but we kept it at 24 volts. I don't know why we did that. We upgraded to a better Victron system and upgraded our batteries, but we kept it at 24 volts. I think it was because some of our charge controllers were 24 volts max. And we didn't want to upgrade the charge controllers. So we got inverters that were 24 volts. And then later on, we're like, we're like really like limiting ourselves here with this 24 volt system. So we upgraded to 48 volts and then just rewired the batteries. So anyway, 48 volts is definitely better in my opinion, depending on what you're doing. But like most RVs and stuff are going to be a 12 volt system. maybe a tiny house or van life type stuff, maybe you go with 12 volts. But for living off grid and trying to run an entire home and all of that, 48 volts is going to be a better solution, right? Anyway, that's a good question. Let's see. Hello from Denmark. Thank you for answering Standby News. You are welcome. See, I used to live in Washington. I've always wanted to live in northern Idaho, but trying to work with my family to move. Been trying to work with my family to move here, there. Have family in Wyoming, so it would be nice to be close. Yeah, and that's cool. Yeah, working with your family, right? That is one thing that we've been asked about, and that is like, how do you get your spouse on board, right? A lot of times it's one of the spouses that has this desire or this passion to move off grid, and the other one doesn't yet have that passion, or maybe doesn't even have the willingness. And so how do you deal with that? Well, I mean, there's going to be, that depends on your relationship and all that kind of stuff. But some of our friends who did something similar to what we're doing or are in the process of it, they watched YouTube videos together, right, of couples doing it. And they watched it and they saw what it was to like live off grid. And, there's a lot of misconceptions about what it means to live off grid. Some, I have a couple videos on our channel talking about, it's kind of like a controversial title. Oh, the truth about off-grid living that no one will tell you. I think that's the title of both of those videos. But basically the misconception is that you got to live like a caveman, right? In some like cave or log cabin with no power, nothing, you can't do anything, and it's just like super rough living to live off grid. But that's not the case. If that's the way you want to live off grid, well, you can live off grid that way, right? You want to live under a bridge in Seattle in a tent, you can live off grid that way. But you can also live very comfortably, right, with a standard Samsung 2-door refrigerator, a standard Samsung oven and stove, although it's propane, it's not electric, right? Microwave, air conditioning, heat pump, computers, internet, all that kind of stuff, man. You can do all of that off grid now. And so, just helping them to realize that they might have some misconceptions about what it means to live off grid, and then helping them work through those misconceptions. And you can do that by watching other YouTubers and seeing what they're doing, but just don't show her the ones or him the ones that are like totally rough, because unless that's what you want to do. But anyway, that's my thoughts. Do you have enough wind? No, we do not have enough wind. Thankfully, we do not have enough wind to make wind power. I do not want to live where you have enough wind to make wind power. As a YouTuber, did you have a situation where you put something into the world which you deleted afterwards? Oh, I'm sure. Man, I think we've deleted a few videos here and there. I can't remember what they were about now, though. Oh, they're like temporary. I know that we've done some temporary stuff that was never intended to be out there forever, right? Like announcements for certain things, like meetup announcements, maybe different events, things like that. I can't really remember, but I know the temporary stuff we've deleted in the past. Oh, live streams sometimes, right? If it's a live stream that we're intending for only the live audience to be able to view, well, then we'll delete it afterwards, because it's not intended for everybody. It's just intended for those that want to be there live. So sometimes I guess we do delete some things, but it hasn't been anything too serious. Like, we try to do our very best to follow the law and to follow the codes and to do everything the way that you're supposed to. And so, we haven't done things that we would be ashamed of and need to delete later, right? So we just don't do that kind of stuff. so it doesn't get filmed because we don't do it, right? So anyway, that's what I think anyway. But maybe you found something out there that I deleted that I forgot about, and you've got it hidden away on your hard drive somewhere, and you're just waiting for the time to expose me. I don't know. I'm just playing. All right. I've been watching you since you first started your channel. I subscribed like 3 years ago. I learned all of my solar stuff from you. Explain it well. Well, thank you so much, Standby News. That's very nice of you. That's awesome that you can call your inspector and ask questions. We do that too, and it takes a minimum of 2 to 3 weeks to get, oh boy, that's a bummer, huh? Yeah. Takes 2 to 3 weeks for him to get back to him, or he or she, whichever one. She was saying, and that's rough, right? Because you want the answer now. You're in the middle of a project or something, you don't want to wait 2 weeks. Let's see. Martin here from Zimbabwe. See, he's thanks for inspiring. I've built my own setup, living off grid for 2 years now. Much love from Zimbabwe. No. Yeah, Zimbabwe. Sorry. We are starting our off-grid power adventure. That's great. And then the last comment that's on here, my wife and I have been praying on what God wants for us and where he wants us to be. I know what I want to do, but God often has other plans. All right. Well, let's talk about that. When you look in the Bible, right, and you look at 1 Timothy chapter 3, verses 16 and 17. And it says, that all scripture is inspired by God and that it's profitable for teaching or doctrine, depending on your translation. Doctrine is teaching. It's profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and for training in righteousness, right? It's profitable, it's beneficial, it's good for those 4 things. Teaching, right? It teaches you where you came from, how you got here, as in humankind. It teaches you how we got into the situation that we're presently in this world, right? Because of sin. Anyway, so it teaches you. It teaches you what to do. It teaches you what not to do. It teaches you how to live a good moral life, all that kind of stuff. There's all kinds of teaching in the Bible. And then, the next one was reproof, right? So it's good for reproof. Well, that means that it's good at telling you when you're wrong, right? If you will open up God's word and you will read it with an open heart, that scripture, right? It says all scripture is God-breathed and it's profitable for this. And all scripture there means he's talking about the Bible, right? He's not talking about all writings and the Quran and all this other kind of stuff, right? The Hindu Vedas or nothing. He's talking about the Bible. It says that it's profitable for reproof, for telling you when you're wrong, right? But the cool thing is that God is he's not a God that just, you're wrong, that's it, it's over, get out. He's not that kind of God, right? He'll tell you when you're wrong. When you read scripture and you read through it and you read like, oh man, I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be getting drunk. I shouldn't be living with my girlfriend. I shouldn't be, gossiping about other people. I shouldn't be doing all these things, you say. Or I should be doing this. I should be assembling with the saints. I should be evangelizing. I should be doing whatever. And it comes into your heart and your mind and you're like, you're right, God. I'm doing wrong. Well, he doesn't just leave it there, man. The next word says it's profitable for correction. He tells you how to make it right? How to fix the problem. Repentance. It's kind of like your GPS, right? Like kind of a silly illustration, but if I want to get to Salt Lake City from Sandpoint, Idaho, and I start heading north on Highway 95, I'm going the wrong way, man. And hopefully, when I pull out onto the highway and I start heading north, my GPS, it's going to start telling me that I'm going the wrong direction. It's going to start reproving me, telling me that I'm wrong. But it's also going to show me how to fix the problem. It's going to say, like, make a U-turn at the next available off-ramp or whatever, right? It's going to tell you how to fix the problem. It's going to put that little blue line going the way you ought to go. And so then, if you're not rebellious against your GPS, you turn around and you start going the other way and you start heading south to Salt Lake City. And so, God's word is like that. It gives us the direction that we need to go, and when we don't follow it, it tells us that we're wrong, and then it tells us how to fix that problem. But the third one there is for training, or the fourth one, sorry, is for training in righteousness. It's a process, man. It teaches you, tells you when you're wrong, corrects you, and it continually works on your heart and your mind to make you better and better and better. It's a process. It's a training process. And so that's not the end of it, though, right? If you opened up your Bible and you're actually looking at the verse, that's not the end of it, right? It says that, or so that. The man of God, that's the person of God. That's the word anthropos there. It means human being, right? The person of God. That the person of God, the man of God may be thoroughly equipped for every good work. Thoroughly equipped for every good work. If you were to put every good work and you were going to write that as a percentage, right, what percentage would you put down there? What percentage of good works will the scriptures equip you for? 100%. 100% of good works the scriptures will equip you for. So now then, we get back to our question. Where should I move? Who should I marry? What should I do? How many kids should I have? Right? All of these questions that we have about life, God himself has told us the scriptures will equip us for every good work. It will give us every principle that we need to make a wise decision, because he wants us to walk in wisdom, using our minds and using his word and using the information that he has provided for us from this world to make a wise decision. Does God want me to marry this woman or this woman? Okay, well, let's think about it. Does God want me to be unequally yoked to an unbeliever? No. Is she a believer? No. He doesn't want me to marry that woman. What about this one? She's a believer. Okay, marry that one, right? I mean, like, there's more to it than that, but we understand, when we understand God's word and his principles, we can then make a decision, right? We're looking at some property we want to buy, and it's north facing, right? As in the summer sun is over here behind the mountain. The winter sun, sorry. The winter sun is over here behind the mountain, and this hill is facing north. He wants you to be wise, man. Use his principles. Be wise. How are you going to, you know how cold that's going to be in the wintertime if you buy on a north-facing slope? Freezing cold. It is not going to be pleasant. Probably suffer from seasonal whatever depression. Ain't going to be fun, right? And then what about debt, man, right? You want to be a slave to the lender? Maybe not. Maybe I don't want to be a slave to the lender. Why not? God's word tells us that ain't wise. So, when we're thinking about all of this stuff and trying to make these decisions and waiting for some type of miraculous sign from God, I don't think that's the way God works. He has given us his word and expects us to make wise decisions based off of it. So what's the wise decision? Would it be wise to be close to your family? Maybe. I don't know. What's your family like? I have no idea. But would that be a wise decision? Why would it be wise? What principles in God's word would tell you that that's a wise decision? How much is the property there, right? How much does it cost? Are there jobs available? How are you going to make a living? How are you going to support your family? Because if you don't take care of your own family, you're worse than an unbeliever. Right? So there's a lot that goes into it, but it requires knowing the word and not waiting for subjective feelings on how we think God might be leading us subjectively, right? He's put this in my heart, or my liver's got a little quiver, or I saw a red balloon today and I prayed to God to show me a sign, show me a red balloon today. And if I see a red balloon, then I know that you want me to do this particular thing. Has he done that in the past? Absolutely. Gideon, right? Has he spoken to people in dreams in the past? Absolutely. Has he given people visions in the past? Absolutely. But what does the Hebrew writer say? Man, it says now he speaks to us through his son, right? And his son said to his apostles, I will send you the Holy Spirit that will guide you, those apostles, into all truth. He will bring to your remembrance everything I have taught you. Acts chapter 2, Acts chapter 1, actually, right? They're like, the apostles are with Jesus. He's already resurrected, and he's getting ready to ascend back to heaven. And they ask him, right? Hey, is now the time that you're going to, restore the kingdom to Israel? He's like, man, don't even worry about that kind of stuff. That is none of your concern, what I'm going to do about that kind of stuff. Times and seasons and all that kind of stuff. Don't worry about that. This is what I want you to worry about. You will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you not many days from now. And you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria, the uttermost parts of the world. Acts chapter 2, the Holy Spirit comes upon the apostles. They start speaking in all these different languages, tongues of fire things on their head. It's like the Kmart blue light special. And go over there. That's where you need to be. So anyway, I know I'm starting to preach now, but then the apostles and prophets wrote the scriptures, the New Testament, for us to have, so that we would have the complete message of God that can equip us for every good work. And he expects us to read it and understand it and follow those principles. All right. Anyway, maybe that's helpful in making decisions about life, right? But it is a good heart. It's definitely a good heart that wants to do the will of God. And we can know for certain that we're doing the will of God when we're following his word. What about a wind turbine for the winter? We don't get enough wind here where we are, and I'm thankful for that. Hello from Florida. Have you ever thought about getting, wow, what is that? Contrinix quail. Oh, quail. I don't know what that is. Quail. Maybe it's a quail. Type of quail, maybe? I don't even know what that is. But if they're little quail, they're cute, no? We've thought about it, but it's not on the plan for any immediate future. Keep up the good work. You make amazing videos. Thank you so much, Standby News. Canterbury, New York, or UK? Canterbury, yeah. The UK's in the house. You should start a Christian channel, Polar Patriot. Hey, guess what, Polar Patriot? You know this, you're being tricky. We have a Christian channel, right? It's called the Down to Earth Christian. And hey, Jules, say hi to the folks.
Hi, folks.
She's been doing like Bible study on Zoom.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yes, ladies Bible study on Zoom. She's been like hiding out back there doing that. Bye. So we have it. It's called Down to Earth Christian. You could just search for the Down to Earth Christian. You'll see my face. And subscribe to the channel there if you want to know more Bible stuff. Let's see, Jacksonville, Alabama. Whew. Let's see, thank you for that. Read along with you. Okay. Southern Oregon, off-grid in the house. Thank you, Martin, for your family. You've been a great inspiration. Well, you're welcome for that. And so just to kind of, for some of you guys that are new here, right? Let me just summarize this really quick. We've been doing this for about over 6 years now. We've learned a lot through the process about clearing land, living off grid, kind of a little bit of the legalities of it, about how to grow a YouTube channel, how to monetize that YouTube channel so that you can continue to build off grid. We've learned a lot of that kind of stuff. And I took some hours this week only. That's the only time that I have planned right now. Hopefully, if I set it up right, when you click the link down below, you could only book some time during this week, unless I messed it up and there's other times available. I hope I didn't mess it up though, because I'm really busy. So we opened up some hours, right, for being able to talk with you guys through like a Google Meetup where we're talking one-on-one back and forth, like Zoom, right? Like Zoom. Anyway, there's a link down below if you want to grab one of those hours, then we can talk more in depth about some of these things. J&J Off Grid. They're the ones that said we were an inspiration. Thank you so much. Let's see. When do you have Sunday service? This is Daniel asking. There is oh man, it's not in this video. I took all the other links out. But in all of our other videos, there's a link down there where you can get all the information about where we worship, the times, and all that kind of stuff. It's actually a link to our congregation's Facebook page. And so you can kind of see what it's like there and what we do and all that kind of stuff, right? We post about our activities on there. But anyway, Sunday morning at 9:30 is Bible class. I teach the Sunday morning Bible class, the adult main auditorium Bible class. And then that's at 9:30 on Sunday. At 10:30 is our regular worship time, open to the public. Both of those, Bible class and worship service, is open to anybody that wants to come. And so 10:30 is regular worship services. And then on Wednesday night at 5 o'clock on Wednesday night, we have a meal together, right? And anybody that wants to come can come. And we just eat together. We hang out at 5 o'clock, 5 to 6 o'clock. We eat together. And then at 6 o'clock is Bible class on Wednesday night. And so you're welcome to come to that. Any of those things you're welcome to come to. Love to hang out with you and worship God together. That would be awesome. Let's see. As Christians, aren't we YouTubers for our neighbors, colleagues, or next person? What is my content even without a camera? What is my content? Wow. Tobias. I'm sorry, brother. I'm trying to figure this out. As Christians, aren't we YouTuber for our neighbors, colleagues? I'm guessing what you're saying here is that we ought to always be living the Christian life and be an example to other people, to our neighbors, our friends, our colleagues, everybody. We ought to be a walking billboard. I'm a Christian kind of thing. I'm thinking, let your good works shine before others, or let your good works be seen by others, that they may give glory to the Father. That kind of idea. I think that's what you're saying. Yeah, we ought to be. That's right. So anyway, let's see. What else we got? Watching from Germany. Awesome. Germany. Man, I want to go to Europe. When's the best time to go to Germany? Be cool. I'd love to go there. I've been watching this German guy. He does some shorts. He's like a comedian. And it's like first day in Germany, and then it kind of goes through second day in Germany. And then he goes to France. First day in France. Second day in France. It's pretty funny. He's just a German comedian, apparently. I didn't even know you guys had comedians. Let's see. Mobe. Man, I want to apologize right now, Mobe Travels. If you say Mobe, or is it Mabe, or is it Moby? I'm going with Mobe, though. That's what it seems like it says in just regular old, normal English spelling. Mobe. Mobe Travels. Please keep preaching. Well, we'll preach on our other channel. But sometimes I get a little carried away on this channel too, especially during the live stream. So let's see. Good morning. Awesome videos. God bless. Dusty B, hello from Michigan. I remember you were making a special room for the Down to Earth Christian channel. At least I thought so. Whatever happened to that idea? Man, I was making that special room. It's actually Seth's bedroom right now because, he came home from college, so he's using it. But I made it. I decorated it. I got my desk and some lights and all of that kind of stuff. And I just didn't like it. It just felt too sterile. I don't know, it just didn't feel right. And so I make the Down to Earth Christian videos right here, right? This is where I film them. And so you got this for the background. And I sit right here, but normally I have some lights up here to make it just a little bit brighter. Anyway, so I film it right here. And we pretty much have a video on average every week, pretty much a new video on the Down to Earth Christian, pretty much every week. So if you want to check that out, more than welcome. We try to answer the most popular questions that people have about God and the Bible. When are you going to do another push-up challenge, Daniel? You want to do another push-up challenge? That'd be pretty cool, huh? Maybe we'll do that this winter. Maybe we do it in December again. I don't know. That's a good idea, though. That was fun. It was definitely challenging. The push-ups were challenging, of course, right? But, so anyway, if you don't know what he's talking about, we did, for the month of December, probably 2 years ago, I bet, we did a push-up. So on the 1st of December, you do one push-up. And we filmed it, and you guys did it with us together, right? Like, at the end of the video, the whole family came together, and we did the push-up challenge together. And then some of you did it with us. But you do one push-up on the 1st. On the 2nd, you do 2 push-ups. On the 3rd, 3 push-ups until you get to the end of the month. And you built up to 31 push-ups, right, all in a row. And so, but that means we have to make a video every day for the month of December. And that is challenging. Definitely challenging. The home has come a long way. Looks good. Thank you very much, Standby News. See, what's the next big project on the homestead? Oh, so we just finished the bathroom, the master bath. That video will be coming out next week. And we finished the master bath. So that was kind of that was like the last big thing. Like that was that's the biggest thing that we're gonna plan to do on the house itself. We've got some sidewalks, like when you come out a door and there's just like a step down into dirt. Well, we're gonna put like a concrete pad there and a couple stairs going down. When you come down the stairs of the apartment where Sarah and Colin live, you come down those stairs and it just goes to gravel. It's a pretty big step. There's like a cinder block there. You step on the cinder block, then you step down onto the gravel. We're gonna put a cement pad there, or concrete pad. Permanent stairs on the front porch and back porch. We got to put those on. They're just temporary right now. They just like go into the dirt. And so permanent stairs there. We've got to wrap up a little bit of electrical that's still not finished, like the back porch here. We finished that last summer and fall. We were working on that. And it just got too cold out there to finish all the painting, right? Because you can only paint during certain temperature ranges. Well, once it got too cold, we had to stop with the painting. So we got to finish all the touch-up paint out there, put the outlets in. We got a floor outlet that we got to put in up there. Because again, right, we got to follow the codes. And in the middle of that rail, right up there in the floor, needs to have a floor outlet. Because from over there to over here is too far. So, and you think, well, the inspector won't see that. He saw it and he said, you need to have one. So we got to put one there. I didn't know though, I didn't know. So he told us we needed one, then we ran the wires up and it's under the carpet up there, coiled up, waiting, right? So we got to find it now. I forgot exactly where we put it. There's a hole about this big drilled through the subfloor. I'm hoping that I can like push around up there with my finger and like feel the hole through the carpet and the padding. Probably could try that or try that. We have a stud finder that also finds electricity. And so maybe I can use the stud finder and find like where the wire's coiled up right underneath the subfloor. I don't know. It might be hard to find that thing, but we got to do it. So we'll try that. Let's see. When is the holiday to Indonesia? It's a great question, guys. Hopefully in the fall. Hopefully this fall. You know, we were just there, right? In February. But anyway, hopefully this fall we'll be able to come back and visit you guys. Let's see. That might be it, man. That might be it. Rhymes with earlobe. Oh, lobe, ear, lobe. So it's mobe. Lobe, mobe. Mobe travels. Well, all right, perfect then. Can I use induction cooker 2000 watt on a Victron 3K VA? So the VA is volt amps, and I use that number just like watts, right? It's super close to the same thing. It's so close that I don't even think it matters. Like, just use it as watts. That's the way I do it. You check with your professional installer. But so 3000 watt inverter is what you're saying, right? And you want to use a 2000 watts induction cooker, right? So if you can produce 3000 watts, you can use 3000 watts. You only want to use 2000 watts. So the inverter could handle it, right? Whether your batteries can handle it or your wiring can handle it, I have no idea what you're using, but the inverter can handle 2000 watts if it can handle 3000 watts. But depending on your batteries, like how long can you do that? I mean, that's a huge load, right? So if you're cooking and, right, so you just got to figure out how long you're going to be cooking for. If you have a 2000 watt hour battery, that means you could cook on that hot plate for 1 hour before your batteries are 100% dead. So most people, I don't think, cook for an hour, but you get the idea, right? Like we use this guy right over here. And the first time we gotten up so far, right? We use one of these electric kettles, and it's pretty good. I think it's 1800 watts. So that's a pretty big load. But I mean, how long does it take to boil water in that? It takes like 2 or 3 minutes, right? So the amount of watt hours that you actually use to heat that water is small. I mean, you guys do the math. But 1800 watts for like 3 minutes. It's not very many watt hours, right? Anyway. Mohammed says VA is important for determining the number of solar panels and the wire gauge to be used. Okay, all right. I understand that. I don't understand how it's any different than the volts and the amps. I mean, it's volt amps, right? So volts times amps is watts. Or watts are amps divided by volts, or volts divided by amps, right? I mean, it's like, I just don't see the difference between a VA and a W. But I'm sure there is one. How do you determine subjects matter for your Christian channel, Polar Patriot? Well, how do I determine topics? There's a form that you can fill out. There's a link in the description of the videos on the Down to Earth Christian. And you can fill out a form there where you submit a question that you want answered. Also, we have a list of questions. We did the research. We have 100 of the most asked questions about God in the Bible. And so we choose off of that list because those are the things that people want to know about, right? And so we try to answer those questions. And we follow the principle of give them what they want, which is the answers to particular biblical questions, right? Like, how did Cain get his wife, right? That's a super popular question. Something people wonder about. You got Adam, you got Eve, you got Cain, you got Abel. Cain kills Abel. You got 3 people, and then Cain gets exiled and gets married and like builds a city. Where did he get his wife from? Right? That's a good question, right? So anyway, so we answer questions like that. That is the principle of giving them what they want, right? And then the other part of that principle is so that you can give them what they need. And what they need is the truth of the gospel, right? Because there are so many false gospels being preached out there in the religious world, and people with sincere hearts that love God and love Jesus have been led astray by these false teachers. And so we answer the questions that they're looking for, and then we also have other videos that we share on our channel that get a little bit deeper into some of the more important topics, right? Like, if you never know who Cain married, does it really matter, right? I mean, like, where did he get his wife? The Bible doesn't actually say specifically where he got his wife. You got to kind of deduce it from the evidence that you find there. And so anyway, but the important thing is, how do you get into Christ? How do you worship Christ according to his word, right? Because remember, we talked about the Bible, we talked about the scriptures and how they equip us for every good work, every good thing that we do, right? Worshiping God is a good thing. And the scriptures equip us to be able to do that according to God's word. Because Jesus said, right, that he wants worshipers who worship him in, number 1, spirit, and number 2, truth. Spirit and truth. Not spirit or truth, not truth or spirit, spirit and truth. It's important, very important. So anyway, answer the biblical questions that people are asking, and then also give them what they truly need. Thanks for asking that question. Sorry about the rant. All right, what else we got here? Polar Patriot, anything? Thank you for that question. We've got some thumbs up and lightning bolts. VA is important. Oh yeah, we already read that. Let's see. Watching from northern Pennsylvania. MPPT has an open circuit volt limit, true. When we use panels in series, the volts add up, true, but the amps stay the same. It should never exceed the height. That's true, right? Absolutely. So that's your volts, right? The volts, when you wire anything in series, say like a 48 volt battery, like a 12 volt batteries in series, the volts add up, but the amp hours stay the same. Solar panels, if you have a 20 volt solar panel and it's 10 amps, well, that's going to be a 200 watt solar panel. And so when you wire them in series, your voltage goes up. So if you wire, right, 5 of them in series, you're going to end up with 100 volts at the end, but you're still only going to have 10 amps. But your wattage is going to go way up, right? So anyway, it's a good point. Thank you so much for that. Somebody else says that VA is more for an electric motor. All right. Great stuff, Marty, from Kyle Beard. You're welcome, Mr. Kyle. That would be Julie's cousin there, and I guess my cousin-in-law. He's a minister down in Texas. You're still in Texas, right, Kyle? I think you're still in Texas. Anyway, he's a minister down there and doing a good work. If you're in Texas and you're looking for a good congregation to worship with, Kyle, why don't you put in the chat where your congregation is and where people can come and find you and worship with you on Sunday morning, should they choose to. Put it down. You can't put a link in the chat because you're just not authorized to do that. But you could put the name of the congregation and the city in the chat. That'd be awesome. The greenhouse is doing great, man. I'd take you out there, but we'd probably lose the signal and then you wouldn't be able to see it anyway. But it's doing great. The plants are starting to get big. I was a little bit concerned in the beginning of the season that they just weren't going to produce the way I wanted them. I was hoping that they would, but they're doing great, man. Doing super good. All right. We bought a barn with an attached business garage on 5 acres, making it a vacation cabin out of the garage. My husband lost his job because of health reasons, and so we sold our home and have what? Hopefully moved onto the property and are enjoying life, but I don't know. Yep, Plano. All right, there you go. Plano, Texas. Plano. It's just Plano, Texas. That's it, man. Just Plano. No, it's like the brand, Plain O, right? Not like Plano, like kind of lame Plano. No. So it has to do with a brand, I think. Plain O, like Rockin' J. And it's the McDermott Road Church of Christ in Plano, Texas. There you go. So if you guys live in Plano, go check them out. Go say that we say hi. So why did ya get rid of the midnight solar? Just curious. Man, you've been watching for a long time there, John. Midnight, we still have it. It's in the shed. It's like put away for emergency purposes. Midnight solar is a great product. But it, the volts so remember we were just talking about volts and like adding up the volts. So the volts that you could put into your charge controller is going to be the biggest limiting factor for your solar input. That's my opinion, but it's going to be the biggest limiting factor because, a lot of them, they're capped at like 60 volts. That's all you can put into it. 60 volts and say 20 amps or 35 amps or whatever the amp rating is on it. And so that's going to cap the amount of watts you can put in it because you can only put 60 volts. And so I forget what the midnight solar was. It's probably 150 volts, I bet. But our new charge controllers are 450 volt charge controllers, right? So we run like 9 panels in series. We keep our amps down, right, which keeps our wire gauge small. We still run 10 gauge wire from the panels to the charge controller. But they're running at like 350 volts, somewhere around there, getting close to 400 sometimes. It just depends on the sun, but anyway, you can get a lot more watts. If you can get more volts, you can get more watts. And so we switched it out to the Victron charge controllers. We have 4. We have 2. It's really like 2 blue boxes. If you go back and check out a video of our setup, but it's 2 boxes, but each one of them has 2 solar inputs into it. And so it's really 4 charge controllers, 2 here, 2 here, all of them. Each one of those can do 400 volts, and I think it's 100 amps. So they can do a lot of power. That's why we changed. The midnight solar was just too small. I know it's a big one, right? I mean, when you're thinking about like back in the day, right? Midnight solar was top shelf, big, like the best, man. But they've kind of, they're not, it's not the same anymore. And so the Victron stuff is way bigger and more better. That's a word. More better. Betterer. All right. Watts, blah, blah, blah. Okay, thank you. Tobias, those that are interested in watts and volts amps, you can go ahead and look at that. I'm in Georgia. I go an off-brand charge control. I got an off-brand charge controller for 150 to run the panels I got from Gain Solar on YouTube. Cool. That's great, man. And so when, that'd be a great topic to talk about, right? Like choosing equipment, how do you choose the right equipment, those kinds of stuff. Remember, there's a link down in the description below. You can book a call this week only. That's all I'm planning right now anyway. And, how do you choose the right equipment, right? Because some stuff's cheap, like inexpensive, seriously inexpensive. Other stuff is like, why is it so much money? During our 6 years of living here and building our homestead, we've learned a lesson, and that is can be summarized like this: buy cheap, buy twice. Now, that's not always the case. That's just a general rule. And so for some, like tools, right, we would buy cheap tools. But then if we use the tool a lot, we're going to have to replace it soon. If you don't use it very often, it doesn't really matter, right, if it's cheap or not, because you use it once every couple of years or something, or twice in your lifetime. And so it's not really a critical piece of equipment. And so, it's just a decision that you got to make on your own, whether you buy inexpensive solar equipment, which can be good, but at the same time, we need to realize that it may not last as long as we would like it to. Maybe, right? You just never know, because it's like an off-brand. They don't have a longevity in the market. Their reputation as a manufacturer, right, hasn't been established. Could be a great and wonderful piece of equipment, right, that's going to last the rest of your life. The problem is you just don't know. And so, it just came on the market last year, rebranded from some other company or something, and there's 5,000 Amazon reviews that say it's great. It just came out last year. How do they know it's great, right? I mean, it's great right now, but what about 10 years from now? We just don't know, and so it just depends on how you're going to use it and what you're going to do with it. But you can get some inexpensive equipment out there to get started with, and that's awesome, right? You just need to know what you're getting. Victron is good stuff. But if you need help, you have to depend on community forums. Yeah, I know that is one of the Polar Patriot there. That is one of the things that I wish that Victron did better, was their customer support. It can be difficult sometimes trying to figure something out. And if it's a straightforward setup, it's not really difficult, but it's when you get into getting into more of the unique situations, automatically starting a generator at certain voltages, turning off generators, right? All of the different customizations, right, that you can do to it, because it has that ability. It can be difficult to figure out sometimes, reprogramming it, right? You hook your computer up to it. It's serious stuff, right? It's not just like push a button and turn a dial. It's like you hook your computer up with a network cable and you log in and you can change everything. And so anyway, you're right. It can get complicated for sure. And so, but if it's a super simple setup, then it's not overly complicated. And not all of their equipment is that way, right? Some of their regular charge controllers, just their simple ones, hook up the wires and it works, right? But yeah, EG4, a lot of people like EG4, right? Less expensive option. And a lot of people like it. When are you going to start your shop? I don't know that I'm going to start my shop. I don't know. I don't even know if I'm going to do it at all. Tired of building right now. And so, I don't know yet, man. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But that's a good question. That charge controller is 500 volt input, but it's been running so far for 4 months. Okay, cool. 500 volts input, man. That's awesome. That's a lot. Is there such a thing to make too much solar power? Maybe, but I don't think so. I'm not a, an electrical engineer, but the panels just sit out there. Once the batteries are full, it just doesn't charge anymore. So say right now I'm using my phone, but the app is on my phone to check my system. So I can't do that right now for you. But guaranteed, I am 99.999% positive that the batteries are full right now. And so our solar panels, right, we can generate 10,000 watts of solar. And so the panels are going to be generating roughly what we use in the house right now. And so say we're using 1,000 watts in the house, well, then you're going to have 1,000 watts coming out of the solar, coming into the charge controller, right? And that charge controller is only going to feed what's needed. So once the batteries are full, it doesn't charge the batteries anymore. It just like keeps them floating along. And then the inverters, though, they're calling for power. And so instead of taking the power from the batteries, the solar panels through the charge controller feed directly into the inverter. They kind of just go around the batteries. I mean, the batteries are just like a pool of electricity sitting there, and the electricity comes in and just goes right back out. If you want to picture it like water, kind of. So it comes in, goes right back out to the house, right, through the inverters. And so then if we turn everything off and the solar panels are out there in full sun, they just sit there. They don't actually do anything, right? It's not a problem. They're designed to do that. That's the way they work. So that's a good question, for sure. When you guys moving to Alaska? Haha, Polar Patriot. Probably never. But I want to go visit again, that's for sure. It's way cool up there. Haha. All right, I guess that's it. We're done. Lots of communities have trouble with AG4. Well, there you go. AG4 batteries. I would do research on them, check out the forums, find out what's going on. People, just do your research. If that's what you want, get it. If you don't want that, get something else. Well, it's been 101 minutes and 10 seconds now. But my little clock stopped up there. I don't know why. It's not counting. Oh, there we go. 18 seconds. So 101 minutes, guys. I'm out of here. Hope you guys have a really great day. Keep smiling. Don't forget, there's a link down in the description below. If you want to book an hour talk with me about any of the things we've talked about here, or whatever it is you want to talk about, I'm just trying to be helpful here, and freed up some hours in the evening this week to be able to do that. All right, talk to you later.